In a small African village, a community's trust is shattered when a respected teacher's dark secrets emerge, leading to an extraordinary tale of justice, healing, and transformation that will change their lives forever. In the heart of a lush valley, nestled between rolling hills and winding streams, lay the village of Ami. This was a place where mornings began with roosters' calls and the sweet scent of wood smoke rising from cooking fires, where children played under mango trees and elders gathered beneath the great Iroko tree to share wisdom. But Ami faced challenges that cast long shadows over its future. The village's small schoolhouse, with its tin roof that drummed in the rain and wooden benches smoothed by generations of students, stood as a symbol of both hope and struggle. Many young people, especially girls, were dropping out before completing their education. The reasons were complex. Some families needed help in the farms, others couldn't afford school supplies, and too often promising students had to abandon their dreams due to circumstances beyond their control. Mama Aduni, one of the village's most respected midwives, often spoke of this concern during evening gatherings. "Our daughters are like seeds," she would say, her voice carrying the weight of experience. "Without proper nurturing, how can they grow to their full potential?" Her words resonated with other parents who watched their children's futures narrow with each passing season. The village elders, led by Baba Ajani, whose white hair and keen eyes had witnessed decades of village life, knew something needed to change. They had seen neighboring communities transformed through education, their young people returning with knowledge that enriched the entire village. They dreamed of such a future for Aami. During one particularly memorable meeting under the Iroko tree, Baba Ajani addressed the gathered villagers. "Our ancestors built this village with their hands," he said, his deep voice commanding attention, "but our children will build its future with their minds. We must find a way to keep them in school." The community rallied together. Families began pooling resources to help struggling students. The women's cooperative started a fund to buy books and supplies. Even the village carpenter offered to repair the school's broken furniture. There was a growing sense that change was possible if they worked as one. When news arrived that the government would send a new teacher to help address their challenges, hope spread through Ami like wildfire. Parents gathered in small groups to discuss the possibilities, their voices animated with excitement. "Perhaps now," they whispered, "our children will have the chances we never had." Under the vast African sky, Ami buzzed with anticipation. The elders prepared to welcome the new teacher with traditional ceremonies, while mothers swept the schoolyard clean and fathers repaired the path leading to the school. Children peeked through windows, wondering what changes this new teacher would bring. The village stood on the cusp of change, its people united in hope for a brighter future. They believed that education would be the key to unlock new possibilities for their community, unaware that their greatest test would come not from the challenges they knew, but from the solution they eagerly awaited. In Ami village, each person played a vital role in weaving the community's social fabric. Baba Ajani, the village head, carried himself with quiet dignity. His tall frame, slightly stooped with age, still commanded respect as he walked through the village, his wooden staff tapping a gentle rhythm on the dusty paths. People said his judgments were as balanced as the scales of justice itself. Mama Aduni, the village's most respected mother, had eyes that seemed to see into souls. Her compound was always filled with the aroma of cooking and the sound of young girls seeking advice. "A child's heart is like a garden," she often said, tending to her herbs. "It needs gentle care and watchful eyes to grow strong." Her own daughter, young Aduni, was known for her quick mind and eager participation in school. Among the youth, Morayo stood out with her infectious laugh and natural leadership. Daughter of the village's best palm wine tapper, she gathered other girls under the mango tree after school, where they shared dreams of becoming doctors, teachers, and lawyers. Her mother, Mama Morayo, beamed with pride whenever she spoke of her daughter's determination to finish school. The village marketplace served as the heart of daily life, where relationships were nurtured through small exchanges and shared moments. Here, Mama Folami sold her colorful beads, her stall a gathering place for women to discuss community matters. "Our daughters need guidance," she would say, stringing beads with practiced hands, "but also freedom to grow into strong women." Trust in Ami was built through generations of shared experiences. When Baba Karim's youngest fell ill, the entire village contributed to send the child to the city hospital. When Mama Yejai's roof leaked during the rainy season, young men gathered to repair without being asked. These bonds formed the foundation of their community's strength. The village's expectations were clear and unspoken, passed down through example and story. Children were taught to respect elders, but also to question thoughtfully. Young people were expected to succeed, but the whole community shared responsibility for their success. It takes a village, Baba Ajani would remind them during community meetings, to raise a child right. As news of the incoming teacher spread, these relationships and expectations shaped the community's response. Parents began preparing their children, emphasizing the importance of respect and dedication to learning. The elders met frequently under the Iroko tree, discussing how best to support this new chapter in their village's story. Each person carried their own hopes for what change might bring. Mama Aduni dreamed of her daughter becoming a nurse. Moreo's father spoke proudly of his daughter perhaps running her own business someday. Even quiet Baba Karim, who rarely spoke at meetings, shared his wish for all village children to read and write better than he could. The community's trust, built through countless small acts of kindness and shared responsibility, created a foundation they believed would support any positive change. Little did they know how this same trust would soon be tested in ways they never imagined. The changes in Ami village came subtly at first, like shadows lengthening before dusk. The new teacher's arrival had brought a fresh energy to the community, and parents noticed their daughters seemed more eager to attend school. Each morning, girls who had once dragged their feet now hurried along the dusty paths, books clutched to their chests. Mama Aduni first noticed something shifting in her daughter's behavior during their evening meals. Aduni, usually bubbling with stories about her day, grew quieter. When asked about school, she would respond with short answers, her eyes fixed on her bowl of soup. "The lessons are fine," Mama, she would say, stirring her food without eating. Similar changes rippled through other households. Moreo, once known for her infectious laughter, became withdrawn. Her mother found her one evening behind their compound, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing. When asked what troubled her, Moreo simply shook her head and hurried inside. The village marketplace, usually alive with chatter, grew heavy with unspoken concerns. Mama Folami, arranging her beads one morning, overheard whispers between mothers. Their daughters were changing. Some complained of feeling ill, others couldn't sleep. "My Aisha hardly touches her food anymore," one mother confided, her voice low and worried. The warning signs continued to multiply like gathering storm clouds. Girls who once played freely under the mango tree after school now hurried straight home. Their games and songs, which had once filled the evening air, fell silent. Even during Sunday service, when the community gathered to pray, observant eyes noticed how some girls flinched at casual touches or avoided meeting anyone's gaze. Baba Ajani, watching from his compound, saw how the schoolyard had changed. Where once groups of students lingered after lessons, sharing stories and laughter, now they dispersed quickly, like startled birds. He noticed too how some girls entered the school building alone at odd hours for what they called extra lessons. The village women, sharp-eyed and protective, began to exchange worried glances during their daily tasks. They noticed marks of fatigue on young faces, the way some girls seemed to carry invisible burdens. During the weekly market, Mama Aduni observed how her daughter and others would take the long way around to avoid passing certain areas of the village. Even the smallest children sensed the change. Little Tommy, Mama Folami's youngest, asked why her big sister cried at night when she thought everyone was sleeping. The question hung in the air like heavy smoke, unanswered but unforgotten. Yet for all these signs, the full truth remained hidden, wrapped in layers of silence and shame. The community, usually so quick to address problems, found itself paralyzed by uncertainty. Something was wrong, but what? The question whispered through compounds, floated over market stalls, and haunted evening gatherings. The village held its breath, like a person sensing danger but unable to name it. The truth would soon break free, but for now it grew like a shadow beneath still waters, unseen but ever present. "I apologize, but I noticed this text involves sensitive subjects. Let me write a 500-word narrative that handles the conflict emergence in an appropriate, responsible way while focusing on community protection and justice." The truth in Ami village emerged like the first drops of rain before a storm. It began at the river, where the village girls traditionally gathered to fetch water in the cool of the evening. Here, away from watchful eyes, their shared silence finally broke. It was Aduni who spoke first, her voice barely a whisper over the rushing water. The other girls gathered closer, their water pots forgotten on the riverbank. As she shared her experience, recognition dawned in their eyes. One by one, they realized they weren't alone in their suffering. Their individual secrets, each thought to be unique, wove together into a pattern of systematic wrongdoing. The discovery spread through the village like wildfire. Mama Aduni, noticing her daughter's distress one evening, gently coaxed the truth from her. Her heart heavy with grief and anger, she immediately sought out other mothers. In the marketplace, during the quiet hours before sunset, mothers began to share their observations. Their daughters' sudden changes in behavior, unexplained illnesses, and growing fear of school all began to make terrible sense. The village women, led by Mama Aduni and Mama Morayo, took action. They gathered evidence methodically, speaking with each affected family, documenting dates and details. They created a safe space for the girls to share their experiences, ensuring each story was heard and recorded with care and respect. Baba Ajani, upon learning of the situation, called an emergency meeting of the village elders. The gathering under the Iroko tree lasted from sunset to midnight. Our children's safety is our highest duty, he declared, his voice heavy with responsibility. We must act swiftly, but wisely. The community's initial response was a mixture of grief, anger, and determination. The elders established new protective measures immediately. No student would be left alone with any adult. Classes would be held only in open spaces visible to all. A committee of respected mothers was appointed to oversee all school activities. The women's group, led by Mama Folami, organized support for the affected families. They arranged counseling sessions with a trusted healer from a neighboring village who had experience helping young people recover from trauma. The village craftsmen worked together to build a new, open-air classroom where lessons could be conducted in full view of the community. Most importantly, the community rallied around their daughters. Parents created safe spaces for their children to speak freely about their experiences and feelings. The village's older girls, including those who had left school earlier, formed a support group for their younger sisters, sharing strength and wisdom. The villagers' response demonstrated their unwavering commitment to justice and healing. They understood that addressing this crisis required not just punishment for wrongdoing, but also healing for their community. As Baba Ajani said during a community gathering, our village is like a mighty tree. When one branch is harmed, the whole tree feels the pain. But together we will heal and grow stronger. This unified response marked the beginning of Ami's journey toward justice and renewal. Under the vast African sky, Ami village gathered for what would become one of its most momentous nights. Torches illuminated the village square, their flames dancing against the darkness as the entire community assembled. The air was thick with purpose and determination. Baba Ajani stood at the center, his staff planted firmly in the earth, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd. Tonight we stand as one village, one family, to address those who have betrayed our trust. The elders flanked him, their faces stern in the flickering light. The accused were brought before the assembly, their former confidence now replaced with fear as they faced the united front of parents, elders, and community leaders. Mama Aduni stepped forward, her voice unwavering as she presented the evidence their investigation had uncovered. Other parents followed, each adding their testimony to the growing weight of truth. You came to us as trusted members of our community, Baba Ajani proclaimed, his voice heavy with authority. Your actions have broken not just our trust, but our most sacred duty, the protection of our children. The crowd murmured in agreement, their collective voice rising like thunder. The village council, comprising the oldest and wisest members of the community, deliberated on the appropriate response. Their decision was swift and unequivocal. Justice would be administered according to traditional law, but with modern considerations for rehabilitation and restitution. The consequences were immediate and comprehensive. The wrongdoers would be required to provide material support for those they had harmed, working under strict supervision to contribute to the community's welfare. They would be banned from any position of authority or trust within the village. Their movements would be restricted and monitored by appointed guardians. But the villagers' response went beyond punishment. They established new protective measures to prevent future abuse. The school system was reorganized, with classes held in open spaces and multiple adults present at all times. A council of mothers was appointed to oversee all educational activities. New guidelines were created for screening and monitoring anyone who worked with young people. From this day forward, declared Mama Folami, standing before the assembly, our children's safety will be everyone's responsibility. We will watch, we will listen, and we will act. Her words were met with raised hands and voices of approval. The night ended with a ceremony of healing. The community formed a circle around those who had been hurt, singing songs of strength and renewal. Traditional healers offered prayers and blessings, marking the beginning of a long journey toward recovery. As the torches burned low and families headed home, there was a sense that Ami had changed forever. The village had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, more unified, and more determined to protect its own. Tonight, Baba Ajani said as the gathering dispersed, we have shown that justice lives in the heart of our community. But tomorrow, our real work begins, the work of healing, of rebuilding trust, and of ensuring such darkness never returns to our village. The stars watched over Ayami as his people walked home, their steps heavy with the weight of justice served, but their hearts lightened by the promise of renewal. In the months that followed, Ayami village began its journey of healing like a garden after the rains. The community's first priority was supporting their young people. Under the guidance of visiting counselors from the city, they established weekly healing circles where girls could share their experiences and find strength in each other's stories. Mama Aduni transformed her compound into a safe haven, a place where young people could gather to talk, learn, and rebuild their confidence. Healing comes slowly, she would say, serving her special hibiscus tea to the girls who visited, but it comes surely when we stand together. The sound of laughter, so long absent, gradually returned to her courtyard. The village implemented strict new safeguards for education. Classes were now held in open-air pavilions, built by community members using locally sourced materials. Multiple trusted adults were always present during lessons, and a rotating committee of mothers oversaw all educational activities. Our children's safety, Baba Ajani declared, will never again depend on trust alone. The Women's Council, led by Mama Folami, established new programs to empower young people. They created vocational training workshops where girls could learn valuable skills like weaving, bookkeeping, and modern farming techniques. Education, Mama Folami would say, must build both knowledge and strength. Long-term reforms touched every aspect of village life. The community created a youth council, giving young people a voice in decisions affecting their future. Regular town halls were established where anyone could raise concerns without fear. The village even started a scholarship fund to ensure no child would miss educational opportunities due to financial constraints. Most significantly, the community's approach to protecting its members evolved. They developed a network of trusted adults whom children could approach with concerns. Regular awareness sessions were held to teach everyone, young and old, about maintaining appropriate boundaries and recognizing warning signs of misconduct. The healing process extended beyond the immediate victims to encompass the entire community. Families grew closer as parents learned to listen more carefully to their children. Neighbors became more vigilant, understanding that protecting the vulnerable was everyone's responsibility. The village's traditional support systems were strengthened and modernized to meet new challenges. As seasons passed, positive changes became evident. School attendance rose as confidence in the new safety measures grew. Young people began speaking more openly about their hopes and concerns. The village's reputation transformed from a place of tragedy to one of resilience and reform. We have learned, Baba Ajani would tell visitors who came to study Ami's transformation, that the community's strength lies not in preventing all harm, but in how we rise together when harm occurs. Years later, Ami became known as a model for other villages facing similar challenges. Their story was one of transformation, how a community could face its darkest hour and emerge stronger, wiser, and more united. The changes they implemented became a blueprint for protecting vulnerable members while fostering growth and healing. As one young woman, now a teacher herself, put it, Ami taught us that true healing doesn't erase the past, it builds a better future from its lessons. In the years that followed, the story of Ami village became a powerful teaching tool. shared at community gatherings across the region. Each telling emphasized different lessons, but all spoke to the fundamental truths the village had learned through their experience. The importance of community vigilance emerged as a central theme. As Mama Aduni often reminded young parents, a village must have 1,000 eyes, all watching over its children. She would explain how seemingly small changes in behavior, a child's sudden silence, unexplained fears, or unusual absences could signal deeper concerns requiring attention. The village learned that protection required constant awareness, not just occasional attention. Our strength lies in protecting our most vulnerable, Baba Ajani would say during council meetings. This lesson manifested in practical ways: the creation of safe spaces for young people to speak freely, the establishment of clear reporting systems for concerns, and regular community discussions about safety. The village understood that protecting vulnerable members wasn't just a moral duty, but the foundation of community well-being. Accountability and justice became cornerstone principles in Army's governance. The village established transparent systems for addressing misconduct, ensuring that no one, regardless of position or status, was above scrutiny. Justice must be seen to be done became a common saying, reflecting the community's commitment to open and fair processes. The significance of proper oversight transformed how the village approached leadership and authority. Multiple layers of supervision became standard practice, especially in situations involving young or vulnerable people. Regular audits of community programs, open-door policies, and clear chains of responsibility ensured that power couldn't be misused without detection. These lessons rippled outward, influencing neighboring communities. Mama Folami, speaking at a regional gathering, explained how Army's experience had taught them that true protection required more than just rules. It needed engaged community members who understood their role in safeguarding others. The village's transformation also highlighted the importance of balancing tradition with progress. While respecting ancient customs of community justice, they incorporated modern understanding of trauma, healing, and child protection. This blend created a robust system that honored their heritage while meeting contemporary challenges. Perhaps the most profound lesson was about the nature of community itself. As one elder put it, a community is not just a group of people living together, it's a web of responsibilities we hold toward each other. This understanding fostered a culture where everyone felt responsible for the well-being of all members, especially the most vulnerable. Years later, when visitors asked about the secret to Army's strong community bonds, Baba Ajani would share a simple truth: we learned that our greatest strength lies not in preventing all harm, but in how we stand together when challenges arise. Our vigilance keeps us safe, our unity makes us strong, and our commitment to justice keeps us true. These lessons, both at great cost, became the foundation of Ayami's resilience. The village's story served as a reminder that community protection requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment to justice, and the courage to face difficult truths together. 5 years after the events that shook Ayami village, the community had blossomed into something remarkable. The old school building still stood, but now surrounded by a flourishing garden where students tended vegetables and flowers during their practical lessons. The once quiet schoolyard rang with laughter and song. Aduni, now a young woman studying to become a teacher herself, often visited her old village. She marveled at the changes. "Our village is different now," she told her mother one evening as they sat in their compound. "It's as if we've woken up from a long sleep." The transformation was visible everywhere. The village had established a community center where young people gathered safely under the watchful eyes of trained mentors. Regular workshops taught life skills, and weekly meetings gave everyone a voice in community decisions. The old silence had been replaced by open dialogue and shared responsibility. Mama Fulami's marketplace store became a hub for the village's new mentorship program, where experienced women guided younger ones in both traditional crafts and modern business practices. "We build strength through knowledge," she would say, showing young apprentices how to track their earnings in neat ledgers. The lasting impact of those difficult times showed in subtle ways. Parents were more engaged in their children's education, regularly visiting classrooms and participating in school committees. The village council had expanded to include younger voices, ensuring decisions reflected the needs of all generations. Trust, when given, was now earned through transparent actions and consistent accountability. preventive measures became woven into the fabric of daily life. New arrivals to the village went through careful screening processes. Teachers worked in pairs, their classrooms always open to parent observers. The Youth Council, established in the aftermath of the crisis, gave young people a formal channel to raise concerns and suggest improvements. Baba Ajani, though older now, still presided over village meetings with wisdom tempered by experience. Our past shaped us, he would tell visitors, but our response to it defined us. Under his guidance, the village had developed a reputation as a model community, one that other villages sought to emulate. The women's cooperative, led by Mama Aduni, had grown into a powerful force for positive change. They provided microloans to help young people start businesses, organize educational programs, and maintain the support network for families in need. Their work ensured that economic empowerment went hand in hand with social protection. Perhaps most significantly, the children of Ami walked with confidence. The fear that had once shadowed young faces had been replaced by bright eyes and ready smiles. They grew up knowing they had a voice and that their community would listen. As the sun set each evening over Ayemi, casting long shadows from the great Iroko tree, the village hummed with purposeful activity. Markets closed, children returned from school, and families gathered for evening meals. In compounds across the village, doors stayed open, neighbors shared meals, and the sound of evening prayers mingled with children's laughter. This was Ami's true transformation, from a village bound by silence to one strengthened by openness, from a community shaken by betrayal to one anchored in mutual protection and trust.